By this time, Canada was inescapably part of a global environmental community. And many Canadians wanted Canada to be a leader. Yet this same global movement was highly critical of Canada's environmental record and wanted us held accountable. At the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro in 1992, the nations of the world were called upon to endorse sustainable development, and that included the management of forests.
When you started to be held up to a standard that was worldwide, it wasn't as easy to blend into the background, that you would be held accountable. And I think Ontario, Canada in general, but Ontario in particular, was being held up to that standard, and it had to be accountable for it. And there had to be a commitment to improving what was going on. So it was, I think, a reflection of the bigger environmental forces, the environmental movement forces that were at work during those years.
The Earth Summit produced a statement of forest principles, all of which would have implications for forest management here at home. Social, ecological, cultural, and spiritual values were to be given equal weight with economic ones. Governments were encouraged to find ways that local communities could participate in the planning process. Indigenous rights were to be protected and supported. And the statement explicitly endorsed the protection of examples of unique ecosystems like old-growth forests.
So what happened was, although the world was changing how they were going to run forestry, Ontario was first off the mark to actually grasp all these new concepts and create a whole new way of thinking about forests, the Crown Forest Sustainability Act.
And the Crown Forest Sustainability Act was actually a groundbreaking, very advanced piece of legislation, because it said that what we must do in the course of managing forests for wood products and so on is we must emulate natural landscape patterns. That means forest types and structure and so on. And we must conserve ecological processes and biological diversity. So we had to do it all.
Sustainable forest management would be based on two science-based principles. Large, healthy, diverse, and productive forests, along with their ecological processes and biological diversity, would be conserved. Forest practices would emulate natural disturbances and natural landscape patterns, while minimizing the adverse effect on plant and animal life, soil, water, and air, and economic and social values. These were not new concepts, but this is the first time they've been entrenched in legislation. The Act changed other things as well. Social, economic, and environmental needs would be given equal value in forest management planning.
And I believe it's still the only piece of legislation in Canada for forestry that includes sustainability in it. And it's looking at the forest not simply in terms of the economic value of harvest values, but seeing it as a whole, an ecological whole, and managing for all of the values that encapsulates, including humans as part of the ecology of the area.
I think that when we look at the impact that Aboriginal traditional knowledge has on the sustainable forest or sustainable management of forests or anything, that we have to look at it from a wider angled lens. We have to look at Western science and Aboriginal technical knowledge, and they have to be both given the same weight.
Over the 40 years, some remarkable people have done some remarkable science, and we understand more and more and more about the complexity. And at the same time, we move closer and closer and closer to the Indigenous people's world, what their traditional worldview is. It's really quite startling for something that we just find myself so close in interpretation, different language, different concepts of things, but ecologically we're converging on this Indigenous people's view.
Now that we're fully participating in forest management to the extent we are, that we're able to bring both voices to the table, and we're dealing with people that are more open to understanding those practices.
The Crown Forest Sustainability Act was a comprehensive rewrite of Ontario's forestry legislation and the culmination of 3 decades of societal change and advances in forest practice. It defined forest sustainability and put the forest first. It entrenched public consultation and the roles of Indigenous communities, and it redefined the roles of government, industry, and the public. Government would write the rules and ref the game. The rest of it was up to industry and the citizens of Ontario.